Good morning and happy Sunday, everybody. I'm Charlotte McGinnis, and as always, I want to thank you for taking the time to tune in and join me for my Sunday Soulful Conversation. I'm glad you're here and look forward to sharing today's lesson with you, which is where do we go from here? Well, just a reminder that the prayer ministry is here to support you in any way we can. If you have a request that you would like us to pray for, just reach out to me either on Facebook, you can text me, you can actually go to my website, charlottemcginnis.com, submit it there. Many ways to do it, and we'll get the prayer team on it. Well, we're moving forward in the Lenten season, the purification process, letting go so we can tap into our true self, our eternal self, our loving self, our souls, which are changeless, formless, and eternal, and totally not impacted or affected by any illusions of fear, separation, war, whatever. And the more we can identify with that, we can be in the world, not of the world. We can overcome the world, which was really the message that Jesus came to share with us over 2,000 years ago. Well, where do we go from here? Hey, good morning, Mary Beth. Good to see you. Glad you're here today. Well, where do we go from here? That's a good question, isn't it? Seems like everything's just crumbling at the seams, and maybe we can reframe this and see it from a higher perspective and how we can navigate through the challenges of what's happening in this crazy world right here, right now. So, Saturday morning, 2 a.m., I was woken. Now, I do wake up many nights in the middle of the night, but this was a little different. And I woke up and was really kind of dazed and it was a little weird. And I just, as usual, had to glance at my phone, and sure enough, it had indicated that the attack on Iran had occurred, and I said, oh, that's what woke me up, because I do believe that we're connected and that we're very sensitive to what's going on in the world, and it does impact us, whether we realize it or not. Good morning, Janet. Good to see you here today. So I woke up, and of course then I couldn't get back to sleep, so watched a little bit of the news, saw what was going on, did a little poking around, trying to get to understand what exactly was happening, and can't say I was happy about any of it, but certainly wasn't the news I wanted to hear. But I don't know about you, but watching this occur and unfold, and even now, a day and a half later, it seems kind of surreal watching it. And I'm sort of looking at this whole movie, Planet Earth 2026, and I'm really seeing that I'm seeing beyond the veil. And I'm seeing that, all these games and crazy things that we're doing and building bigger arsenals and bigger reasons and justifications to keep ourselves separate and in control. And then, as you know, I'm very curious, and I go down a lot of rabbit holes and listen to a lot of different people's perspectives to try to make sense of it. And although I can understand more maybe why people make the decisions they make, I don't think most of the time that the decisions are made in the greatest degree of love. And so, we can always justify our position, right? Well, do you prefer to be right or happy? I love the teaching from A Course in Miracles, I am under no laws but God's. So to me, the only way we overcome this is by tuning into our spirit, watching this life on planet Earth from a healed perspective rather than a judgmental, fearful, taking sides and so on and so forth. Otherwise, we're just going to continue to perpetuate this crazy dream, which is insane. And the Course even goes on to say it's upside down and backwards. The thinking of this world is upside down and backwards. not meant to be fixed but forgiven. You've heard me say that how many thousands of times? Well, it is true. And this is an insane world. And please understand, I'm not here to really take a side at all. I'm not here to point fingers. I'm not making a case for right and wrong. I know there's compelling arguments and thoughts on many sides. And I, as I said, I understand where people come from. But what I'm really coming to understand is, this illusion is not meant to be fixed. It's meant to be forgiven. And it can't be done through mortal means. We're just playing in this crazy sandbox. It's kind of like a picture of these little toy soldiers, right? That, these, what were they? These little, were they plastic or whatever, and, just playing at war and all these silly things that we do. And hear me, I'm certainly not saying that the pain of people all around the world is not real for them. And I understand that, and I'm not here to dismiss that by any means. But I do know there's another way, and that's what I'm here to talk about, how we can meet this insanity from a different energy, from a different perspective, and be more compassionate and kind and loving in the process, and seek to find the higher path. And so I've got some cool things to share today. And good morning, Dawn. Good to see you. Happy Sunday. So I'm here to, it's not an easy thing to do by any means. It's a process. And I digress just a little bit. As you know, I teach groups, which are always welcome. I have a book group on Wednesday and a Course in Miracles group on Friday. And we have both of them are great groups and awesome people, and people who are just really committed to living from a greater degree of love and understanding and true compassion and peace. And we're all pretty much there for the same reason, is to be more enlightened, live from a higher perspective, and own our stuff, and sometimes that's not so easy. And to my point, one of the members of the group, he's newer to the Course in Miracles, and he's been devoted to it greatly. And, really doing the work. And after a year or so in, of course, daggone it, I've been doing this a year. Why aren't I enlightened already? Or why? And I said, patience. And the good news is number one, giving each other credit that, we want this, right? We are choosing to live from a greater place, a higher form of consciousness, more loving, right? We've made that decision and that choice, and often it doesn't come as quickly as we want because we're, our ego wants it now. And so we need to develop patience and trust and understand that there is a lot of undoing in the process. Well, just let me tell you up front, if you're looking for peace and meaning in this world, I personally don't feel it can be found there. Yeah, we can have pleasures and fun and, good friends and, travel and see cool things. I mean, yeah, all that is part of our human experience. It's good, not to dismiss that by any means. But really, if it's not eternal, it's not real. The Course in Miracles says the Course can therefore be summed up very simply in this way: nothing real can be threatened, nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. So you want the peace of God, we have to go to what is real and not what's temporal. Yeah, we might find a minute or two or a day or a week of what we perceive as being joy or whatever. But the peace of God passeth understanding. So I spend many hours a day watching podcasts. I enjoy them. I go in and many of them I listen to and I learn a lot. I sometimes don't understand where people's perspectives come from, not from a intended judgmental point, but I'm coming in with an open heart and to be inspired and to learn and understand. And yes, I know this world's not meant to be figured out, but I think if we understand where people come from, maybe we'd be more compassionate towards the process. But ultimately, I found a great person who I'd watched last year on a podcast. And her name is Catherine Fitz. I don't know much about her. I didn't know much about her. After I watched this interview, I dove in online and studied her a little more. And she was actually a financier. She's very intelligent. She's worked at the highest levels, knows really knows how the world operates. She worked in government. She worked for I think President Bush #1 in his administration. And so she's seen it all. And she understands how it works. And she understands the internal workings of the ego-based world. And she was actually on this interview, the original intent, I believe, of the conversation is about where we're moving with our financial system. And it is more of a universal financial system, the digital currency. This is not conspiracy, by the way, it's fact, okay? Fact as much as fact can be, right? But the digital currency is to be, there's arguments both sides. I'm not taking a side here. Not really a fan of it, but I'm willing to just be at peace with it and whatever. But it is a means to sort of make our trade easier, technically, quicker, possibly, but the more sinister meaning behind it is for tracking and to track our spending and to be able to control where we put our dollars, right? So if we're not adhering to, and actually this is already implemented and has been in China for a few years now, they call it a social credit score. So if you're into this CBDC, digital currency system, which it looks like we're moving in that direction, then if we're not marching to the drum that whoever wants us to march to, they can literally stop the flow of your cash. So it seems like it could be a scary thing, something that, as I said, I'm not really a fan of. It might be something beyond our control. But I am moving into the positive aspect of this. This is just what's happening. I mean, the AI is, as we've seen, and the markets are, if you follow the stock markets at all, and it's all talking about the AI, and that's where the future of money is, and the future development, and also where the, in the future, not too distant future, it's been determined that many jobs will be no longer necessary. And so it's interesting times. It's crazy. But the good thing is that, as I said, this Catherine Fitz had lots of information and understanding of the inner workings. But at the end, I was asked a question, well, what's the solution? What do we do? And, she had spoken, she's a very spiritual woman. I think that when she was in the depths of darkness, and I mean darkness and seeing really what was happening in the world and how it operates, she, reached out, took a Bible study that was, she said, changed her life more or less, and really got her to understand. She said everything in the Bible, if you understand it, is true. And I do believe that. I think we've misinterpreted it. I think it's been misrepresented. But I think if you have someone who understands the bigger picture and what was in the intended purpose and practice of the teachings in the Bible, and not get it filtered through the ego and how I can use the teachings in the Bible to get what I want, which seems to be a lot of the current. I don't want to digress that, but it is what it is. But anyway, it really brought her to a greater understanding, and she made reference to other wonderful teachers and philosophies and ideas and truths that really bring us to a place of understanding that we can only go so far. The darkness, okay? It's kind of like we talk about. Some people say it's a battle of good and evil, darkness versus light. Some people say it's satanic. Whatever. To me, it's all dark is ego, separation, turning away from the light, which turning away from God, thinking that there's meaning and value in, you know, control and power and whatever. But once we get to a spiritual perspective and live from that, we realize that we don't have to be a victim of this insane world, and that really in the end, and I do believe this, love wins. I do believe that God wins in the end. And what can we do? Where do we go from here? Well, we have to tune in to the invisible. That's where faith and trust enter in and lead us to responding with more compassion, love, not being tempted to attack and defend per se, but we're going to get into that in just a minute too. What would Jesus do, right? But it's all about understanding that all is well with my soul, and all is well with your soul, and everybody's soul. And if we go there for comfort and peace, then everything out here just melts. It just dispels. If you look at it as we talk about being an energetic vibrational universe, when we stop feeding it with fear and attack and defense and judgment and whatever we do, it can't help but just diminish because we're no longer feeding it. Well, you know, so the good news is eventually, once we stop feeding it, we go within, we're integrating love into everything. We're really seek first the kingdom, coming from that perspective first, and then showing up in all of our endeavors from that intent and place. Well, in the Course in Miracles, there's a statement which is really powerful and appropriate for what I'm choosing to share today. And it says there is a limit beyond which we cannot miscreate. So what does that mean? It suggests that true understanding and transformation go beyond mere perception. The teachings emphasize knowledge of the heart of God is truth, which is unchangeable and eternal, while the world of perception is based on interpretation and change. This distinction highlights the importance of recognizing and transcending illusions created by our beliefs and perceptions, allowing us to access a deeper, more truthful reality. So we have to go into the truth, where the real knowledge is. And it's not the intellect of our thinking mind and our programs and the books. I mean, even Einstein says, I think all the great minds in the world have really tapped into exactly what this is saying. It's not about intellect that we value so much, our degrees and, you know, all of this. It's, you know, and how many letters can you get past your name? Some people really value those and relish those. And I'm finding more and more I'm wanting to let all that go, all these identities. But anyway, and it's okay, whatever game you're on, and it's all cool. My game is my game and yours is yours. But what I'm coming to realize is that when we focus on the eternal, that is the truth of our heart, the Holy Spirit's still small voice, which brings heaven and earth as one. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven, right? Well, that's when we infuse everything with love. So how do we do that? Well, we have to be steadfast, be vigilant for God and his kingdom only. We have to be willing to relinquish our judgments, because our judgments are based on other people's ideas and opinions and books and thinking that we know what it is, and I have come to realize that I think an enlightened mind is a mind that's willing to let go of its programming and former beliefs and say, okay, I know nothing, keeping the bowl empty. Just being, it's about unlearning and filling that bowl with the divine intelligence, which is true knowledge, which will lead us to a place of eternity rather than this temporal fix or whatever it is that we think is going to make us happy, right? Well, I'm going to move into what would Jesus do? And good morning, Deborah. Happy to see you. Well, Jesus, and this is interesting because I found this, and of course I am a follower and a fan of Jesus and his teachings and who he was and what he stood for. And, what were his thoughts on war, which is interesting. And I want to share this because it makes total sense as to what I've been sharing for many years now. And to see it expressed from somebody else, and they express it probably more eloquently than I can, it was like, yeah, that's cool. That's exactly what I've been feeling and understanding and trying to share with whoever will listen. So, Jesus' teachings on war are complex, emphasizing love and peace while also acknowledging the necessity of justice and the potential for conflict in certain situations. Because, I think those of us that are Pollyanna-ish about Jesus or enlightenment, it's like, Jesus would never go to war. That's not Christ-like. That's not holy. That's not loving. But in this interpretation, which I find to be very much in alignment with what I believe, I'm going to share with you. So Jesus' teachings on nonviolence. Jesus is often associated with the message of love, peace, and forgiveness. Key passages, for example, on the Sermon on the Mount, highlight this perspective where he teaches love your enemies and turn the other cheek. I do believe that. We've got to love our enemies, turn the other cheek. It's, what is it? An eye for an eye makes, I think it was Gandhi who says, an eye for an eye makes everyone blind, right? So we've got to turn the other cheek. Of Course in Miracles says, it only takes one to heal a relationship, usually the saner of the two. Well, here we are in this collective, insane battleground, literally, planet Earth, and it's really which wolf are we feeding, right? That's the one that's going to erupt, and so we've got to make sure that we're willing to love our enemies. It's not easy. Turn the other cheek. But instead of fighting, well, there might be a reason where there might be a cause for conflict, which I'm going to try to make clear here. So these teachings suggest a radical departure from the Old Testament, which is more militaristic and promoting reconciliation over retribution. And of course, the Old Testament was a little more militant and fear-based, and then all of a sudden here comes Jesus, and it's much more about love. But in his teachings, Jesus was a man of love. He was the embodiment of love. And so to go further into, well, what about war? Well, the historical context of Jesus' life during the Roman occupation of Judea is crucial. His message of peace can be seen as a response to the oppressive nature of Roman rule, advocating for nonviolent resistance against unjust authority. Well, that's what we all believe, right? He just stood there in love, and they melted. However, interpretations of this teaching varies, with some arguing they don't outright reject the use of self-defense or to protect others. And I think this is where, I'm going to go ahead and talk about just war, which is, is war justifiable? Well, I think if we were all in our right mind and turning the other cheek and blessing each other and loving each other and living from the greatest degree of love in all we do and not needing to be right and pit against each other and create separation and duality, no, absolutely we wouldn't need it. But we're not quite there yet. So what do? Well, I'm going to read what Jesus says here and how it relates to what I've been talking about for quite a while, because I was really happy to see this interpretation. So this is about just war. Some theologians argue that while Jesus preached nonviolence, there is room for a just war theory, which posts that military action can be morally justified under certain conditions, such as self-defense and the protection of the innocent. This perspective suggests that Jesus' teachings do not preclude the possibility of engaging in war when it is deemed necessary to combat evil or injustice. So that's huge, because, you know, we think that Jesus did not advocate for war ever. That seems to be a perception many people hold. But this is a slippery slope. He says right here, it sometimes is necessary to combat evil or justice. Well, I would say right now, the biggest hot button, well, Iran is a hot button, obviously. But before that, these children who were trafficked and sexually assaulted and beaten and murdered, I mean, that triggers a lot of us, right? It's not a happy thing, not a just thing. It's an awful thing. It's a dark situation. And so it's not about, this is saying don't sprinkle fairy dust on it and expect it necessarily to go away. So sometimes war or justice is necessary to bring forth healing. Now we have to, when I say it's a slippery slope, I trust Jesus' guidance in this and what he would determine as being just versus not just. And for example, the story of the money changers, when Jesus went in and was throwing in the temple, flipping the tables, and expressed anger according to the Bible and the story. And so some people say, oh no, he never did that because he would have never gotten upset or angry. Well, I had studied that more. And of course, this is saying much to the same point, that Jesus responded to that situation in a way that they were able to get the message. And sometimes just being, Pollyanna-ish and loving and kumbaya is not going to, they would have tuned it out and kept going. So sometimes, we get people's attention, get justice and healing by putting forth some sort of consequence for behavior. And so the difference between, let's just use the example of what's happening in the world right now. All of these things that are burning, these fires burning all over. I would like to think that those making the decisions, governments all over the world, the people who are the decision makers for the world, right, are making those on the greatest degree of love for everybody. May be the case. I don't know. My thoughts about it are maybe some of these decisions are made for more control power and whatever. And, moving up that ego ladder. So I don't feel that maybe in the war room, it was like, what can we do to bring the greatest degree of love to everybody? Because if you look down the rabbit hole, there's usually a benefit for the people making the decisions to go to war. So what I'm saying is, yes, sometimes war is just, and consequences for behavior and justice for those who have been treated unfairly or in horrible ways is a good thing. But I think that for us to really accomplish the healing and the transformation from this ego-based world to diminish the darkness and to bring forth the light, heaven and earth become one, we have to be very mindful of our intent. And is my intention here to heal and unify and bring peace for all, no exceptions, no exemptions, right? Or is this just for me to get what I want? And so I think that this perpetuation throughout the history of this world is everybody just says, well, it's, you know, it's just the way it's always been. And, you know, yeah, well, and there may be a perpetuation of this from here to kingdom come. But the way we, that's to be determined, I guess. But the way we really heal from this, and the greatest gift we can bring to everything, is to bring our heart to it, act from that, and know that we have, check our intention at the door. And I've been referring many times lately to those beautiful monks that walked for peace, who exemplified so much of what this is talking about here. And they just came in peace. They weren't taking sides. They were living from the highest level of compassion and peace that I've seen, and love that I've seen in a long time in this world. And so they were very enlightened beings. Well, I aspire to come from where they come from, and unplug from this need to be right or whatever. So I just want to say, okay, Spirit, use me to for the greatest degree of love and planting seeds wherever I go that will serve all of humanity. And we have to let go of our expectation. Remember that what we're seeking when we're trying to fix this world or place blame or whatever is really delaying our awakening process. So you want to awaken from the dream, live from your heart. Sometimes the action is to say no. Sometimes we'll be guided to do something that might look like it's not very loving, but sometimes, being loving is not necessarily as the ego would determine that to be. So in conclusion to this part about Jesus and just war, his stance on war is, okay, let's see. Donna, Jesus' approach focuses on transforming hearts, offering a radical alternative to the cycle of violence and promoting peace. Absolutely. It's the transformation of the heart. Excuse me. So that's what we're here to do. Well, in this section is Jesus' stance is multifaceted. While he advocates for peace, love, and forgiveness, his teachings also recognize the complexities of human conflict and the necessity of judgment. Yes, Mary, it's challenging. It sure is. So, the necessity of justice. The interpretation of his views on war continue to be a subject of theological debate. Reflecting the diverse perspectives within Christianity regarding the morality of war and violence. Ultimately, Jesus' message encourages believers to seek peace and reconciliation while grappling with the realities of a world where conflict exists. So, what do? I don't know. My direction may be completely different from everybody else's, and most likely it is because I have a different hardwire, different program. So I do know that if I tune in to that still small voice of the Holy Spirit and abide by that voice, that I will be led to say exactly what needs to be said in any given moment, to take action where I'm called to take action, whatever that is, and know that it's none of my business, really. I can observe it, just like I'm observing the insanity of the world, but I don't have to take it on. I don't have to make it wrong. It's just like, oh, okay, this is interesting. So it's insane. Well, that's what this world is. It's insane. It's a teaching device. So be the light, share the light, listen to the voice of the Holy Spirit. We can't go wrong with that ever, ever, ever. So in Matthew, Jesus states, do not think that I have come to bring, this is very interesting too. I have come, this gave me a whole shift in this quote, because I come to bring peace, right? We've heard that Jesus came in peace. Hey, and I've heard this quote many times and never interpreted it this way till I read a little deeper. Do not think that I have come to bring peace to the earth. I have not come to bring peace, but a sword. And what the heck, bringing a sword? This statement reflects the divisive nature of his message, which emphasizes the conflict between those who believe in him and those who do not. Jesus' mission is not about bringing peace, but setting people against their own families and communities, as he warns of division and hostility due to his teachings. So, this division is, I want to be on the side of Jesus, which is the side of love, which is the side of God, which is the side of everybody in unity and peace. And sometimes it comes with the light. Sometimes the darkness just don't like the light. That's the bottom line. The sword symbolizes the ideological and spiritual conflict that arises from adhering to his teachings, which may lead to conflict even within families. This paradox highlights profound impact of Jesus' message, which brings up both presence and division. In essence, while Jesus embodies peace, his mission also brings about significant and conflict and division in the world. So Jesus, the sword, he brings the sword to fight the darkness. The fight is, whatever, I'm not going to get into the language, to fight the darkness. And as we abide by Jesus and in love and live by the light, the darkness, as I said a minute ago, just don't like it too much. So here we are. Which voice do you want to listen to? It's not a popular voice for those who want to stay in the dark. And we don't want to join in, as I was speaking about this woman earlier that I loved her interview, Catherine Fitz, we've got to trust in that invisible. The invisible is the faith and trust in God, even though we don't know what that is. But we do know it's good, and it's eternal, and it's unifying, and it's peaceful, but we're not quite sure where it's going to lead us. And it's really none of our business. You're welcome, Mary Beth. Thank you. So it's a moment by moment decision of living by the sword, which is here. I just see Jesus being fighting the darkness in the world. And we're in tough times, guys. It is. I talk to people. I love it, though. People call me all the time, and I talk to people, and I can talk about this stuff every day, and I'm not claiming that my opinion is right or wrong or whatever, but it's interesting. I'm curious. I like to hear how other people think and what they think, and the people, thank goodness, that I speak to on a regular basis are sincere. And when I say sincere, I mean they really want to. They don't want to live in the darkness anymore. They want to live in the light, and they question their motives now and their intent behind everything. And it's it's a very interesting conversation when you get there, because you can just be open and honest and say, wow, this is interesting. That's a good word, right? So what does A Course in Miracles say about war? Well, it presents a radical view on war, suggesting that it's senseless, yes, and that the battle is always within ourself. The Course emphasizes, Donna Machu Picchu, well, we had a blast climbing that, didn't we? So anyway, the Course emphasizes the importance of inner peace and the transformation of conflict into a state of peace. It teaches the war we perceive is an illusion. And true peace is found in stillness of the mind and acceptance of one's true self. The Course encourages individuals to rise above the battleground and become a force for peace, which the world desperately needs. That's carrying the sword. I'm the sword of peace, okay? So when we rise above the battleground, I envision this, and when I got into the Course 40 years ago, there was a beautiful teacher. She was awesome, Lee, down at the Unity Church in West Palm, and she was, she was living the Course. I mean, you could just feel her compassion and love, and she was a great teacher. And Donna, I know you know her, Lee Nugan, super lady. And anyway, she always talked about above the battleground, and she would say, envision yourself just being above the battleground. The battleground is planet Earth, and looking down, holding the hand of Jesus, and just sending love from your heart. And that, the way she said it with such certainty and compassion and love, I was like, I want that. Yes, I like that analogy, and I envision that often, and her speaking that. And so I know that a few years back, a friend, Barbara, who was the founder of the Alliance of Divine Love Ministry, she was inspired very similarly to this above the battleground idea. And it was the Angel Squad, and it was about the angels coming, rising above the world, and same thing, enveloping it with love. And she had her own little method and practice that went with that. But it's all good, and it all is about us being in the world, not of it, above the battleground. So the Course, well, let me go back, excuse me. Peace this is a quote from Einstein, peace cannot be kept by force. It can only be achieved by understanding. And Einstein said this because it emphasizes the need for dialogue and empathy in accomplishing or achieving lasting peace. So, I think that so often when we're in conflict, it's because instead of trying to understand and work together, we're just, we've already put our stake in the ground and drawn our line in the sand, and this is my right, and I don't care, you're wrong. Then it's just not the case. Just not, So we have to learn to understand. That's why I watch 6-7 hours of podcast a day easy. And because I do choose to understand. I want to understand why people think like they do and take the action that they do. But the point is that the conclusion I've come to is like all these great ideas, and I understand why people think the way they do, serves a purpose to some point. But if we really want the good stuff, if we want to awaken from this dream, it's not going to be by trying to fix any of this. It's going to be live from your heart, blast the world with love, and then see what goodies come out of that. So there's a teaching in the Course also, lesson 153, that says, in my defenselessness, my safety lies. And it emphasizes the importance of recognizing true safety and peace come from letting go of defenses and embracing vulnerability. This lesson warns that the world is rooted in attack, and defensiveness leads to confusion and weakness. So that's that battle, so it continues, perpetuates, and leaves us more confused and weak. It teaches us that defenselessness and guidance as it acknowledges the Christ in us and allows us to experience the love and guidance of the Holy Spirit. Ultimately, it encourages us to trust our true identity, and recognizing true safety lies in recognizing and accepting the Christ within ourselves. So, it's in my defenselessness, my safety lies. If I defend myself, I am attacked. That's another quote from the Course, teaching from the Course. So, although the Holy Spirit, I think in our highest state of consciousness, when we do overcome the world, when we wake up from this dream, that we do become more defenseless. We don't feel compelled to attack and make wrong or take sides and place judgments. It's just we become more compassionate, and as Einstein says, we want to understand. But ultimately, we want what's best for all, not just for some, and know that the invisible, that which is not seen or known, really, is what is going to transform this illusion of light versus dark, evil versus good, into unity and peace. So what do you do to get there? Well, we've been talking about it. Listen to the Holy Spirit. Holy Spirit meets us where we are, so our guidance will be that which helps us to lift the veil and see more light and feel more compassion and understanding and all that good stuff. So do your spiritual work. Be in the world, not of the world. In other words, live above the battleground. We can plant more seeds of peace, love, and compassion. Just sprinkle them. Envision that every word we speak, every action we take. In other words, where would you have me go? What would you have me do? What would you have me say? And to whom? Which is a great way to start your day, which is asking the Holy Spirit or surrendering to the Holy Spirit, thy will, not my will, be done. So plant those seeds and make a decision that you're going to serve God first and then each other. And just a practical, we'll sort of get to the more practical, like where we are, and, plant those seeds of love, do your spiritual work. But we are bodies, living in a physical world. We have physical needs. So, fill up your gas tank. With what's going on in the world, I pray peace. I know that all is well, and I know that all is well with my soul, right? And yours too. And in the meantime, make sure you have a full tank of gas and a few extra groceries on the shelf, and just make sure you're taking care of your physical needs too. You can't forget that. Often, what do they say, that some people are so spiritual, that they're no earthly good. In other words, we still abide in this body, in this world, so we have things that need to be attended to, not in fear, but just tend your garden, right? So a couple of quotes. I said one earlier: an eye for an eye ends up making the whole world blind. So that's Mahatma Gandhi, and this quote speaks to the cycle of revenge and need for compassion in resolving conflicts. Well, I don't really want the world to go blind, and I don't think you do either. And of course, we can't help but close with one of the greatest quotes, Jimi Hendrix, and he says, when the power of love overcomes the love of power, when the power of love overcomes the love of power, the world will know peace. So I can't think of a better surmise of what I've shared here for the past 40, 50 minutes. And anyway, let's choose love, tune in, rise above the battleground, and all is well. So if you feel compelled to pass this along and share, I'd appreciate it. And thank you all for tuning in. And I'll be plugged into YouTube in the next hour or so. So this will be up on my channel, youtube.com/InspireYoutV. Thanks, everybody. Have a great week. Send peace and blessings. Let's do our work. The world needs us. Take care. Namaste. Bye-bye.